There was a man I swore I would never become. My name is Thomas Reed. I'm 71 years old and I spent 31 years in the Army, most of them as a senior non-commissioned officer responsible for leading and mentoring young soldiers. And somewhere along the way, without realizing it, I slowly became the very kind of leader I once criticized. When I was a young staff sergeant in my early 30s, I served under a command sergeant major who had a reputation. He was sharp, disciplined, and technically excellent. No one questioned his competence, but he was distant, cold, if I'm being honest. You never quite knew where you stood with him. Praise was rare. Conversation was brief. Standards were enforced without explanation. I remember standing outside his office once listening to him correct a young soldier who had made a minor mistake. The correction wasn't cruel. It wasn't loud. It was controlled and precise, but there was no room for humanity in it. No acknowledgement that the soldier was trying, or that he might be carrying something heavy outside of work. I told myself then, if I ever make it to that level, I won't lead like that. As the years went on, I built my career carefully. I took pride in being steady. I told myself I listened. I believed I understood my men, and for a long time, I think I did. I remembered their families' names. I stayed late when someone needed help. I believed that firmness and fairness could live side by side. But promotions change you in ways you don't notice at first. With each step upward, the responsibility grew heavier. The problems became larger and less personal. Instead of mentoring one soldier, I was now responsible for dozens, then hundreds. My days filled with reports, decisions, and consequences that rippled far beyond any single conversation. The higher I climbed, the less time I had for small talk. Efficiency became survival. Emotional nuance felt like a luxury. There was a moment in my late 50s that I still think about often. A young sergeant came into my office asking for guidance about a personal issue that was affecting his focus. I listened, but my mind was already on the next briefing. I gave him structured advice, outlined expectations, and reminded him of his responsibilities. He nodded, thanked me, and left. After he walked out, I realized I had done exactly what my old command sergeant major used to do. I had addressed the issue without truly seeing the man. At the time, I brushed the thought aside. Leadership requires detachment, I told myself. You cannot carry everyone's emotions. Then I retired. Retirement has a way of stripping away the noise. Without the uniform, without the daily authority, you are left with your habits. And habits that once looked like discipline begin to look like distance. My wife was the first to notice the shift. She told me I had a way of ending conversations before they were finished, that I listened just long enough to respond, not long enough to understand. I defended myself at first. I said I was efficient, that I valued clarity, but the truth was harder. I had trained myself for decades to compartmentalize, to prioritize tasks over feelings, to move quickly from problem to solution. That skill served me well in uniform. It did not serve me as a husband or as a father. I started to see the pattern more clearly when my adult daughter tried to talk to me about a challenge she was facing at work. As she spoke, I felt the familiar urge to fix it, to give direct advice, to outline steps. When I finished, she looked at me and said gently, "Dad, I didn't need a briefing. I needed you to listen." That sentence stayed with me. I thought back to the man I once feared becoming, the distant leader, the one who commanded respect but struggled to build warmth. I realized something uncomfortable. I had judged him without understanding the weight he carried, and in trying not to become him, I had unknowingly walked the same path. The difference was subtle. I did not raise my voice. I was not harsh, but I had become guarded, controlled, efficient to the point of emotional economy. In my younger years, I believed leadership was about setting the standard and holding the line. And it is, in part. But what no one explains to you is how easily strength can harden into isolation. As I aged, I began reconnecting with some of the men I had led. In those conversations, I heard stories I had never known. So one told me he had been struggling during a period when I thought he was simply underperforming. Another said he always respected me, but never felt fully comfortable approaching me with personal concerns. They did not say it with bitterness. They said it matter-of-factly. But their honesty felt like a mirror. At 71, I can admit that I mistook emotional control for emotional maturity. I believed that because I was not explosive or unfair, I was approachable. I did not see how my calm exterior sometimes felt like a closed door. This realization did not come all at once. It came in small, quiet recognitions, in pauses during conversations, in the way my grandchildren respond when I kneel down to their level instead of standing above them, in the way my wife relaxes when I sit and let silence stretch without trying to resolve it. The man I feared becoming was not a villain. He was a product of years of responsibility and pressure. So was I. The difference is that I now have the distance to choose differently. I cannot undo the years when I led from a place of guarded efficiency. I cannot revisit every conversation where I might have offered more patience, but I can soften now. I can let my children see uncertainty in my eyes without interpreting it as weakness. I can allow space in conversations instead of tightening them. If you have carried authority for most of your life, especially in uniform, you know how easy it is to confuse control with steadiness. You know how quickly decisiveness can replace dialogue, and you may not notice the shift until the uniform is folded away and the house grows quiet. At 71, I no longer measure myself by how firmly I can hold the line. I measure myself by how open I am when someone sits across from me and speaks from the heart. The man I feared becoming was never truly someone else. He was a warning about what unchecked habits can do over time. The good news is that age gives you perspective. It gives you the chance to step back, to observe yourself honestly, and to make small corrections while there is still time. If you see parts of yourself in this story, you are not alone. Leadership shapes us deeply, but it does not have to define us permanently. There's still time to become the man you once promised you would be.